Da 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 da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never been into one of my lives, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And for those of you who've been with me for any length of time, you know it's a day off. And when it's a day off, one of my favorite things to do when I'm not exploring the outside, it is exploring the inside. It's making that little bit of movement for myself, understanding that if I can make that movement for myself, that maybe I can help others in making a little bit of movement. You know, I go out and I take in a lot of content. I listen to a lot of different perspectives. There's a lot of thought leadership out there. And because I believe what you think about is realized, it doesn't just mean what I think is being realized because, in my own experience, I could see the evidence of that in my own life, right? And in the experiences that my family have had and are having. But at the same time, I appreciate that it is also, right? What you think about is realized is in your perspective too, in your contribution, in what you want to bring to the table, in those beliefs and those understandings that you have. And it's that dance and that's amalgamation and that assimilation that can find us in a place that maybe that we can collectively, and that's the first time truly I've used that word, but it's something we need to do, right? In order for us to move on in our own human evolution to guarantee that we are moving forward. And even though we might not be Homo sapiens anymore, right? Just like we're not Neanderthals anymore, but we're going to evolve into something else, something more magnificent, something more suited to what we're really supposed to be, right? It's in that amalgamation, that assimilation, that we're going to be able to find that we spend too much time fighting those parts of us that are supposed to be our partners and our allies. And that's one truth that I have come to realize for myself, that it's just not a Cindy story. It's not a Cindy journey, right? That there are many parts of me, right? That could could not and would not have even been recognized or been able to bubble to the surface without some of these understandings and some of these perspectives that didn't necessarily belong to me. Maybe they did, right? But they weren't meant for me to come across. And I am grateful for the lessons, however they come across my path. And I am not denying any part of me that might be able to assist in that process. And I think that's why, you know, feeling pretty comfortable in what I'm doing. And even though everything is not bubbling to the surface, it's in that discernment. It's in that feeling things out. It's really delving in and pulling things apart and putting them back together, right? I explore the inside. I do explore the inside, but exploring the inside is not denying a truth to feel comfortable in where I'm at. I understand this may get more uncomfortable as I move forward, right? Because all the time things are bubbling to the surface. And I could brush that away and say, that's not true. That isn't possible. That, right? That couldn't have happened, right? They wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that. I won't do that and fail myself in the next breath that I take or come to a recognition that somebody else failed themselves or failed in me in my relationships. And we all have to understand. It's why, one of the biggest lessons I got when I first woke up to some of these ideas was how important forgiveness was going to be. Things didn't even start to crack open for me until I could come to the understanding that it was going to take a lot of forgiveness. Some forgiveness on my part, some forgiveness on other people's parts, right? But forgiveness for myself, even, because I played a role in that. And even though some parts of me may have agreed to the experience that I'm having right now, I don't think it's possible or feasible that other parts of me would have made those same decisions. So a lot of that movement is in an individual kind of manner. Is that a right way for me to put that in? It's a, I was going to say private, but it is kind of private, isn't it? Right? Because it's a unique experience to myself, and it's only unique to myself because of the nurturing, because of the programming, because of the lessons that I pick up along the way, the experiences that I pick up along the way, that makes it a necessity to be creative in my absorption and in that discernment that I may or may not want to believe as truth. And I have to remember, if it comes across my path, I'm going to have to delve into it. And, right, we were talking a little bit about this in the past couple of days, that I made a serious mistake when I labeled my mother a narcissist, when in all actuality, my mother was a borderline, right? And a lot of these labels that we put on people's personalities, right? In that mislabeling, which I did on my own self. And I'm grateful that, right? Conversations, perspectives come across my path that give me some insight that maybe I can delve in a little bit deeper and make a little bit of recognition as to where I might have gone wrong, that I might have gone wrong, that I more than likely had gotten something wrong. And I could have stopped in the lesson of narcissism. And who would have that have served, right? I don't think too many, except for those who are looking to take out the narcissist. I have had many narcissists in my life. Narcissists love empaths, right? They love the light just as much as anybody else does. But not everybody loves the narcissist, and that's a truth too, and that's a hard truth. And to be steered in a direction where I might have labeled somebody wrongly. I might have blamed, and I might have projected unkindnesses onto somebody who wasn't even a narcissist. But because they had similarities, because some of the same symptoms and the same characteristics in a borderline is present in a narcissist, I could have easily stopped in the lesson of narcissism and not putting, it's not a matter of putting blame, but putting the recognition of certain problems, right, to the right parties, right, to the right parties. And I'm grateful for that lesson, or many, many lessons in the past few weeks on borderline. It's a subject I have touched on in the past few years a few times, but not really delved into it like I'm kind of delving in a little bit more in this moment, right? I do not want to make mistakes in what I'm doing, because there may come a need for me at some point to, I'm not saying to judge, but to have an understanding in somebody else's presentation of the problems that they're having to be able to label that properly, right? And yeah, these are lessons that I pick up along the way. But the thing is, each one of us gets to make that choice. You can just stop in the lesson and take whatever lesson that came out of the face of whoever was presenting it to you, because everybody's out there, right, vying for your attention. And you might have jumped on or bit into a little bit of information, and because it served you in the moment, because it was the answer in the moment, that you took it as truth, and at that point wasn't willing, right, to listen to another explanation as to what it might be, because the answer you got served in that moment. And right, I've been in the lessons of narcissism for a few years now, right? And I am grateful that I stayed open and willing to be course corrected in my beliefs, because that's what it was. I truly believed that my mother was a narcissist, just the brutality and the, when I'd say, well, why? Because I said so, right? But that doesn't mean, right, that she meant that she was right. She was just saying, because I said so, right? And she didn't do what she did for pleasure or enjoyment. It was out of necessity, it was out of relief, right? And yeah, I can't believe that somebody would even attempt to be hyper vigilant in somebody who is borderline, because there is no, right, predictability in somebody who could go off in a pin drop or a look or a sigh, right? And that's a truth. I would much rather, right, have a narcissist in the same room with me than a borderline. And that's a truth, and that's a scary truth, right? Okay, you guys, we're going to pick a card here. We're going to go into it just for a couple of minutes. First perspective that comes to my mind. And yeah, and we're going to call it a night, call it a set of days off. Got a lot done and didn't get a lot done. And both were needed desperately. And I feel good in going into that work week and that job that puts the roof over my head. And we'll see what the coming week has in store for me or us. We'll see. Okay, you guys, first perspective on this word: inspiration. Oh my goodness, right? To be inspired and to be able to take lessons from all types of people, from all types of experiences and inspiration. And you guys know I explore the inside and the outside, and I am inspired by a beautiful landscape, by a calm lake, a soft breeze, a soft voice, an understanding, right? Somebody who can explain in a failure in a way that it comes across as a lesson, right? That you want to absorb rather than something that you want to choke down, right? None of us want to take lessons and have it drilled into us, right? Or have a lesson come at us and it hasn't even been a thought in our mind before, and being told that it's something that we have to absorb as a fact and as a truth, right? And I've lived that way, right, for decades in all honesty, right? But to be inspired by somebody else's perspective and to be able to pick something up from that, just enough sometimes to pull you into another topic that's similar, but just stretched a little bit, right? And that stretch is that stretch for yourself, that stretch is that movement. That stretch is taking on a little bit more. And that's the inspiration. And it started with being inspired by that fact that we're carrying on anyway, right? That I carried on anyway when things weren't perfect, when things weren't easy, when there didn't seem that there would be a light at the end of the tunnel or a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, that there would be some calmness to the stormy seas, right? And then to be able to read a book, maybe, right? And to be able to have a system calm down. Or, like I said, look out at a beautiful lake and be inspired to be in my own presence, right? And I've never minded my own presence. I've never have. And actually, I have many times preferred my own presence because in my own presence, I don't have to be hyper vigilant, right? I recognize when I'm going to do something silly for the most part, right? I'm the first one to admit when I put my foot into my mouth and I come into my own lives to take the lessons for myself, understanding that there are lessons for myself foremost, right? And if I don't come in, because, right, it is a conversation that quite easily I could end my life and not be able to be inspired. Sometimes I have to inspire myself. Sometimes, right, we all have to inspire ourselves because nobody else sometimes seems to have the time, right? Lots of times we're so busy treading the water that we don't realize that there's somebody treading water right beside us. And in treading water, sometimes it is in that you can do it. Hold on to that log. It can't be too much longer. We got this. You got this, right? That it is in that relationship that we have with ourselves and each other that could make it so that, well, taking turns in that inspiration, right? It's like passing the baton to each other and making sure that everybody is being seen and being heard and understands that they have something to contribute. Okay, that's Melvin. He better have a good cheer for today. Wow, it's late for this talkative lady on a Wednesday night. Yes, it is Wednesday. It's my last day off. And I kind of, right, I milked it for what it was worth today. I had a very enjoyable set of days off. I had lots to get accomplished. I got it. I got it done. I had a little bit of time for myself, right? And then I came into my live tonight and had a little bit of time for you guys too, which was the plan anyway. It was planned maybe to come in a little bit earlier, but it is what it is, and I made it in, right? And I inspire myself by just showing up, right? Even if it is imperfect, even if there isn't a message there. And I understand there always is something there, whether or not it's for me or you or somebody that's going to come across this 100 years from now. I don't know, right? But I'm open to be inspired. And it is my intent to inspire motivation, inspiration. I stepped into that, right? And I wear that well because I was inspired and I was motivated. And it came to me just in the nick of time, right? I do believe just in the nick of time. And it was just enough to keep me going till the next experience, adventure, conversation, lesson, or tool comes across my path. And sometimes that's all we can hope for, right? in that next moment, what are we going to be inspired by? What's going to motivate us, right? And it's not always, right, a boot in the butt. It really isn't. Okay, that's my good cheer. Melvin, thank you for popping in tonight. I am calling it a night myself. I'm going to take my vitamins and I'm going to have a glass of juice and I'm going to call it a night myself. You guys have a great night and we'll see you tomorrow.